Welcome to Truth in Telecoms. I'm going to be doing a version of the predictions I did with Cameo earlier, but these are going to be looking more globally. So it's all focused on what's going to happen through 2025, which I think we're going to be finding is going to be quite a fun, interesting year. So there's the agenda. I'm not going to waste time running through that. It's very similar. I just basically, because I'm looking across all markets, I've just added in where we're going to see things that are slightly different compared to North America. First one, can CSPs, that's campaign service providers, tend to be North America focused, and local SMS aggregators survive? Because the past couple of years have been tough on both of them. And the answer, of course, is yes, but honesty and integrity are critical for customer trust because in messaging, brands have been, it's been a tough time as SMS spam, robocalling, cybersecurity with the PSTN, AIT, artificially inflated traffic, continues to grow. AIT is stealing from the customers. Remember, Twitter complained about $60 million a year being stolen from it, but using AIT. Now, it's not at that scale now, but it's because they've changed the technologies. But it's still a whole host of web brands are suffering. We've also seen in some markets crazy ATP SMS price rises, like 1,000%, even for internal, not international ATP. And also, silly hype around RCS. It's had a long time to launch. It is moving forward, particularly in Europe, but I think in Asia Pac, it's a lot more complex a world. And also politics is having a big impact on what's happening in North America at the moment. Again, going to cover all that as we wander through these predictions. Now, TED Summit has always had thought leadership and presentations that always seem to be a little too early. But actually, I think, this one on post-quantum world, where we had Kevin Graham from Covero Computing presenting on their technology to enable businesses to cope with a post-quantum world where your current encryption can be hacked. So they've got some great technology that enable to beef up your current encryption as well as cope with a post-quantum world. And what really, at the start of the last year, 2024, I think I was very much, it's over a decade away. But then late, towards the end of this year, Google shared results on its Willow, its quantum computing chip. And that was like, wow, we're getting close now. So it's now, from my perspective, 4 to 7 years, I think, is sort of window. Because if we see a couple more jumps, next year and the year after of a similar size to what Google's doing with Willow, I mean, we need to worry. But even so, depending on your application, even current encryption can be perceived as weak. So again, check out what Kevin Graham shared with Covero Computing's approach to managing this transition. You don't need to have an answer, but I think you need to have a plan when your customers ask about it. Camera, it continues. It's just industrial hubris. I see some of the large vendors talking, to be honest with you, BS. Again, it comes back to, we've got to get rid of the BS in our industry. We need honesty and integrity. Banks don't love SIM swap APIs. They consider the SIM swap problem to be a carrier problem because their employees are being bribed. They're not taking those employees that were doing the SIM swap to court and getting them fined or in prison. Okay, it's all, let's hush, we'll keep it quiet. No, you've got to basically provide the training, and then when people break the training, you take them to court. It's as simple as that, because they're criminals, they're crooks. We also have within the industry the complicity of analysts and event organizers. They're all talking about all the amazing things we can do with camera. And there's no balanced discussion in the industry. It's just basically, in support of a particular large vendor and saying everything is awesome and the world is going to change. And most people have forgotten about the decade-old failure of one API. API success comes from solving a problem for which the customer will pay. Okay. So why are customers paying for some of these capabilities? Now, some are actually, services that have been deployed for quite a few years, like SIM-swap. Telesign has been providing it for years. Um, you know, but it's when an API is designed by committee, it's just way too complex and it lacks the necessary wrap because it's not just the API, it's all the supporting infrastructure. And it could be you need to have flavors that include some IP capabilities. So it's not this slow, expensive. You have a more cost optimized route as well, depending on the device and the customer's need. And also, there's the whole go to market. So it's like, we have an API, the world's great. No, the API is actually a tiny piece of the solution that needs to be built. So that's, again, more reasons why. Just generally for Kamara, just what? Observe. Okay. Now, RCS, here you need to look at it country by country. I predicted 2024 was not the year for RCS, and it wasn't. Well, hey, with a 16-year failure to launch, that really isn't a prediction. You are going to possibly see lots of buzz as Google was targeting the US for RCS in 2025. But I think the political situation, it might be keeping its head down this year. Now, in the US, brands remain confused. How do I get these apps up and running? What's the language? Is it like Flutter? And of course, it's all done in a telco-centric way. Conversations. So why isn't RCS Conversations integrated into the popular CRM platforms yet? What's the pricing? Even in North America, the pricing isn't clear. Okay. And we got the whole issue of what's Google's role here versus the direct connect aggregators versus CSPs versus aggregators versus telcos. It's a complex mess with a whole host of questions that aren't resolved. So if they're not resolved, now, then brands aren't going to act. They're not going to put the budgets together. So for the US, watch in 2025. In Europe, Google is making the investment. They're making it very easy and they are stimulating the market. So action, in Europe, I think we're already seeing action there. We're also seeing some of the wholesale providers. So for example, Deutsche Telekom, they did a great presentation at TAD Summit last year. And I think you'll see more progress there. In Middle East and Asia, it's generally WhatsApp or the local champion like WeChat or Line. Infrastructure is already there. Enterprises already signed up. It's easy. So I think there it's more complex. Now, actually, we had a presentation again at TAD Summit where Senate Mobile were presenting on their CPaaS in the fact that it's SMS and then it's WhatsApp, not RCS. So I think Asia will be different, but I think Europe, we'll definitely see it being one of the stronger RCS regions. But again, that's a prediction. But you'll see I have a big rider for this year on all my predictions. Number 6, VCon and Skip. The thing that, for me, shifted the whole discussion were the hacks we had at TED Hack. I mean, there was loads of them on VCon and Skit. And the developers weren't even talking about the technology. We had one hack, which was Shrine at the Temple of Computing, and didn't even mention the word VCon, just showed how an experience can be relived using VCon. It was amazing. And developers have got it because they're not worrying about technology and details. It's just the application of that technology for a really cool situation. VCon is virtual conversation. It's a file type and enables businesses to listen to their customers at scale and ensure compliance of customer data in AI training. I know here in North America, there's a little bit of a laissez-faire attitude. It's like, yeah, whatever. But I think in Europe, this is going to be critical. Then we have SCIT. That's another IETF standard. So this is a marriage made in the IETF. And that's supply chain integrity, transparency, and trust. Now, this enables the right to know and the right to erasure. So auditors and regulators can know the personal data contained within VCon. Again, I think Europe might be the earlier adopter than North America, but even so, I think those enterprise with a focus on honesty and integrity will want to do this because that enables them to deploy around the world and be sure they can meet regulatory requirements. And and only does Skip enable personal data within the enterprise to be managed, it also enables you to expose fakes. So that, I think, again, the data that's being shared is honest. I think, again, this is going to be a shift. We're going to see deployments simply because from TATAC, developers just got it and we're doing some really cool hacks. That's the moment people understand this. Now we have voice AI. Its time is almost now. It's good enough for some use cases. So that's great because that starts to get revenue flowing, gets deployments. So it will be the year of voice AI for some use cases. Now we had a great discussion at TED Summit with a panel looking at the nonsense that is, where LLMs are going to replace SaaS. That's not the case. It's going to automate some of the processes in SaaS. And earlier this week, Robert Viz from Bird really shared, his view of the world, and he is shaking up the industry with his autonomous enterprise pitch, which is Birdbox, because it's dealing with the problem that we have all these SaaS, but they're a pain to integrate and quite often don't integrate. So he's basically coming in with a sort of combo SaaS built on their platform, automated through LLMs, so that you can run as an autonomous business across all what your HR, finance, project planning, etc. They've built it up themselves on a framework, so it's very interesting. And he was sharing with that earlier this week. It is early days, but they are building, the market. And I would say from Robert's pitch, I had several people contacting me wanting to get in and involved in what Robert's doing. So I think there's some amazing talent that we'll see joining what Bird is doing because they believe in the future that Robert's creating. Now, voice AI is a tough technology for large vendors because every 3 months, something new. I mean, OpenAI, real time was only a few months ago, and now, it's voice to voice. You no longer need to do speech to text and the rest. So it tends to be smaller companies that can basically, rev their platform quick, are able to take advantage of this and get it into customers' hands in time as it matures. But also keep an eye on Ultravox AI. So this basically stops us becoming dependent on OpenAI. They're an open source project that does multimodal voice to voice. So keep an eye on that project. I think that that's going to protect and help us lower the price for voice to voice. And then at the end of last year, we saw lots of cash being raised. So ClerkChat, Vida, Vapi, all companies involved, or part of the TAD Summit ecosystem. They did some amazing raises through 2024, and again are the initial use cases that are getting voice AI out into general deployment. So again, 2025 is the year, and we're going to see some fast progress there. That's not going to be limited by OpenAI because there's open source alternatives, thanks in part to the work that Facebook did in open sourcing a lot of their technology. Messaging monopolies are still there. From a US focus, can a foreign-owned TCR exist? I don't know. I think it's doubtful. That they need to get that sold off. Ericsson sold iConnective off to a US entity. There's a lot of regional complexity in the messaging market in North America. I just remind everybody of the shameful racist texts that were sent after the election. How's that even possible? with the TCR. So again, that calls into question whether it's even working. Internationally, AIT continues to grow from the creation of local monopolies, especially in Latin America. The GSMA just needs to get a statement out that you do not create a monopoly for A to P with one vendor. You use multiple vendors. You don't have to use many, it could be like three, four, but the industry needs direction because 1,000% increase in pricing it just shows an industry that's more interested in stealing from its customers than delivering service. Now, one of the things I was proud of last year, I got the honest CPAS review. It's detailed, it's long, I apologize, but this really put a stake in the ground on what's happening and how we can move forward. Okay. Just data points. So from Truecaller, 41% of 65-year-olds have stopped answering calls. I mean, this is the baby boomer generation. They always answer the phone. Now, 41% are worried about being scammed. And it's a massive global problem. Juniper Research showed, global losses were 38 billion in 2023 and are projecting 91 billion in 2028. So this is a global problem. It's not a North American problem, and it's causing a lot of distrust. Again, customer trust is critical. And that's through like account takeover, identity theft, phishing, email compromise. And it's just massive numbers. Again, source Truecaller, 56 million Americans are impacted by scams every year. We've got to help and protect our citizens far more than we're doing today. And CPAS are both an enabler of the problem, but they're also part of the solution. So as we look at this, we've got to realize and be honest in terms of what's causing these problems, but also how we can protect consumers. Because if we don't, then people are going to be migrating off the PSTN onto, for example, WhatsApp. Now, this is my rider on all the predictions. Again, just a link to the post that has it in. In North America, the separation of powers is no more. This is a unique time in not just American history, but in the world's history. Really, anything could happen. It would be nice if we could sort of compartmentalize and say, well, that's a North American problem. But unfortunately, North American problems quickly become global problems. So my prediction, is when, sort of Guido Fawkes tried to blow up the British Houses of Parliament, but unfortunately got caught. And then, the Brits celebrate every 5th of November with a bonfire and burning an effigy of Guy Fawkes on there. We're in a very similar situation where basically, it's an uncertain world, but in some ways, that uncertainty will create lots of opportunities for us. I'm going to, at the end, mention some of those. But this is the big one, and this is where I finish in terms of the predictions, is the cybersecurity angst we've got. FBI, CISA advised US citizens against using the PSTN. That's massive, okay? Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Mark Warner described it as the most serious breach in our history. So these aren't small statements. This isn't like sort of, we're using SMS for 2FA is depreciated. This is, senior, lawmakers basically saying, don't use the PSTN. And it's crazy. And here, Senator Mike Brown, so you can see it's cross-party. This isn't a Republican thing or a Democrat thing, basically saying, you need a specialized app. You need to be using something like Signal, WhatsApp. And we have seen a shift in North America, the increase in the number of people using WhatsApp. I mean, it's just catching up with the rest of the world. It's like, over Christmas, my sister and her kids visited, and what were we using? A group on WhatsApp. It was Christmas 24, and the kids and the parents were able to just share and chat and share pictures and all the cool stuff through a very easy to use interface that everybody has experience with. But this is a big issue, and it's going to roll out through 2025. It's not just the US. It's many countries around the world. And again, we have on the TED Summit podcast, we have a number of white hat hackers, sorry, and they've been sharing their perspectives and experiences. But really, any middle schooler can telnet into IP routers in some carriers' networks, okay? And they can gather a whole host of information. It's not just Huawei network equipment. It's not just TCR being a foreign-owned monopoly controlling 10DLC ATP SMS campaigns. In fact, check out my 2024 review on some of the nefarious activities taking place. In recent posts, we've seen some carriers, they're sort of indicating everything's fine, PSTN is secure again. T-Mobile is sort of using like the Shaggy defense and going, wasn't me, because they discovered it earlier and then took actions. But again, it's not a one and done. This is ongoing hacking that's taking place, not just in North America, it's around the world. And here's the link to the ethical hacker's view. PSTN is simply not secure. Now, the real concern isn't that China's looking at your data. I don't care. I can look at my basically texts. They're very boring. But it's the fact that your messages can be exposed in real time on the dark web. So say I receive a passcode, a 2FA, a passcode, and that could be made available for a fee on the dark web. So a criminal could say, oh, I'll pay $2 for that. And they get my telephone number, the passcode, who was sending it. And then they could basically call me and go, hello, Mr. Quayle. Hey, I'm Ed from Bank of America. As proof of identity, here's the passcode we just sent to you. I just need to check some of your account details. Now, that's suspect. But, if you're busy or you're not thinking, guess what? So, and we have been here before. Remember when the National Institute of Standards and Technology depreciated using SMS for 2FA? And that was all the way back in 2016, nearly 10 years ago. And nothing really happened initially. It actually took theft, that is artificially inflated traffic, to get businesses to act. Once Twitter was losing 60 million a year to AIT, all of a sudden it then started using email and also passcodes as well. And just finish off on, just to understand the spread and scope of the cybersecurity issue. RCS is no more secure than SMS. And it could have done something. I think it was back in 2016 that WhatsApp had end-to-end security. Any messaging platform that's worth its salt today includes end-to-end. And we've seen, Apple sort of, say RCS is just an option. We've seen Samsung pull back on RCS. Google has a political headache in the US, but in Europe is pushing things forward and doing some good work there. We're seeing WhatsApp rise in terms of users. I think it's something like 110 million active users. Lawmakers are using it, and let's face it, Meta's CEO bent the knee, and it's who knows what can happen. And just as at TED Summit last year, Senate Mobile, they shared their CPaaS evolution. They are one of the more successful CPaaS for telcos, and their evolution is SMS to WhatsApp, not RCS, because that's what customers are. That's where businesses understand. So they're just reacting to the realities of the market. Now, secure messaging solutions do exist. So Matrix is used by the military of many governments, including the US. Matrix has been a sponsor of TAD Hack and TAD Summit right in the early days. It's a great platform, and they've just been in there, they've built the platform, they've got an amazing community, and the time is right for them. So congratulations to Matrix there. Now, there's no quick fix to what's happening in this cybersecurity headache. Just like, as an industry, we moved our websites to HTTPS to keep them secure. You're going to have to move your communications onto basically encryption as well. No way around it. It's going to happen. How it happens and how fast, I think that's more a question. And what does this mean for SMS-based 2FA? Well, again, it's slow decline. It's going to disappear. But we have WhatsApp, Signal, passkeys, because biometrics have not yet been hacked. So very much passkeys we're going to see grow over the coming years. But it's going to be a slow transition. And it's going to need some external input. Part of the driver for the move to away from SMS was because of AIT. So, and brands, enterprises were being robbed by not moving to something like passkeys. So that's the trends. I think the most significant one, and it's going to impact us in many different ways, is cybersecurity. But 2025 is likely to be a great year in programmable telecoms communications. We have the success from the activist investors, whereas Kazam and some funds have raised Twilio's stock phenomenally from $42 to 110. And they used some of the information provided in TAD Summit's Truth in Telecom to help them. And they made 100 million profit from what they did. We've got about $1 trillion private equity looking for investments. So that's 500 that needs to be spent by 2025 because there haven't been that many investments in 2002, 3, and 4. And there's another $500 billion that's been raised. So there's money there, especially if you're solving a problem for which customers will pay. We can almost start chanting IPO, IPO, IPO. Cineverse lost T-Mobile's US aggregation business, but guess what? Infobip won it. First of all, that is objective proof you don't spam grandma. My experience as a T-Mobile customer is so better today because a fraction of the SMS, a fraction of the robocalling. So Infobip's IPO could be in 2025, or at least there could be restructuring with private equity investment. So I think we will see some companies that are well structured get cash and enable them to accelerate in this market, which is good. And money is coming in. I know there's a lot of negativity out there, but money will come in. So if you've got the plan, if you're demonstrating your honesty and integrity so customers are loving you, then your business will grow. It's as simple as that. So I'll just finish on trust and integrity are the keys to success in 2025. There's been too much scamming of the customers, the enterprises. We've just got to focus on delivering great services that help them be successful, full stop. Thanks.